Welcome to Opening the Bedroom Doors. If you're new here, welcome. This is a space for you to learn unabashedly about sex in a shameless setting where we get to talk about all the things that people are doing behind closed doors. I am a private sex coach and I teach sex education classes. And a lot of the times I hear people say, like, I just don't know what's out there. So I don't know what to try, or I judge myself, or project what my neighbors are doing in their bedroom. And so I just wanted to open the bedroom doors, let it air out a little bit, let some spring cleaning happen, and we can talk about things where we get to learn a lot. So specifically, we're talking about the sexual things that we possibly might be open to trying, that we want to bust some stigmas and myths about. And so we're talking about sex toys today with Gretchen Lee. I'm so excited because Gretchen is like a brainiac nerd when it comes to specific things that I've learned from you, like anatomy, sex toys, strap-ons. I have learned so much that I didn't even know existed until I talked to you. So, and you make it fun and light, and that's what we need with these types of topics, because then they're just more exciting. So Gretchen and I know each other from being a part of the Portland like sex positive community, but we also meet up a lot because of me teaching for She-Bop, and Gretchen is the event coordinator for She-Bop. So Gretchen, will you introduce people to who you are, what you do, what you like?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Gretchen Lee. I use they and she pronouns. I do work at She-Bop, as Jessie mentioned. I'm the education coordinator, education and events coordinator. And previous to stepping into that role a year and a half ago, I've been working on the sales floor at She-Bop for 6.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been in the sex toy. Yeah, 6.5. I've been there for a long time. Which I feel like I have spent my whole young adulthood with She-Bop, because I'm 29 now. So that, I worked at Starbucks briefly after graduating from college, and then after that, She-Bop was my first real job, and I'm still there. Yeah, so I've done a lot of other things in the meantime. And learned a lot in my own right and become an independent sex educator and developed my own practice in personal training. I also coach weightlifters and powerlifters in my other life. But I've been on the sales floor slinging sex toys all the time, for 6.5 years now. So yeah, I teach all kinds of classes about many different sex skills, but Jessie is totally right. I am a big nerd for sure. I definitely bring some book smarts, some organized and memorized facts, and a lot of anatomy to everything I teach for sure. It's my personal brand, a little bit brainy, a little bit cute.
Yeah,
I definitely, it's interesting. I still have a hard time I don't really conceptualize myself as a sex toy expert, but it's just kind of incredible what spending 6 years talking to people about sex toys will do.
Yes.
Whenever we have a couple of recent hires at She-Bop, and I will find myself being like, realizing that I know the name of every toy that we have in the shop and like all of the colors it comes in and what's the length and diameter, and those facts just like exist in my brain somehow after this many years. So yeah,
I love
that's me. That's what I do. Glad to be there.
Thank you so much. Gosh, I love that your brain remembers the length and diameter of things, and just that your brain works that way, because mine does not. So we need people like you on the floor. That's awesome. So I think that when people think of sex toys, they think of a few things. The first thing that I can think of is that people think like, ooh, I'm having some difficulty in my sex life. It's feeling a little like, eh. And so I know what'll fix it. Let's get some new sex toys. And how exciting will that be? And so I think of it, one as like woo, yeah, let's have some fun. And then I also know that there is some thought of like, why do you need a sex toy? Like, why in partnered sex, why would you need a sex toy when like we got all the parts? And so I just want to talk to the people about that, of like why sex toys are so awesome.
Yeah.
Regardless of who you're using them with or what they're for.
Yeah. So it's one thing that I like to be on a soapbox about in sex related things in general is I really despise euphemisms. And sometimes I think they're funny. They're like, I despise them anywhere on a spectrum of thinking they're ridiculous to thinking they're like really unacceptable and gross. And for many things, but one of the words I've used, a euphemism I've heard used for sex toys, is a marital aid. And
marital aid.
Yeah, which like is a really medical sounding thing.
Yeah.
And if that's your jam and you want to refer to your sex toys as marital aids, you do your thing, like whatever. But to me, like even just hearing that term as a euphemism kind of to me implies that like they are a tool to fix something that isn't going well, or like is something to lean on when you need it. And that's not necessarily bad, and it's not necessarily wrong, but you are totally right that there are a wide variety of reasons why someone might want a sex toy. And rarely, I don't think the solution really to any concern you might be having in your sexuality or in your relationship, if you're trying to like plug a hole with a thing and be like, I know a sex toy will fix whatever this thing is that's going on.
Wait, was that a euphemism?
None intended there.
Yeah.
But if you're just trying to kind of like, to plug a hole per se, put out a fire, whatever, and not actually addressing whatever the issue is, you're going to have limited success. And so I think that is something to keep in mind, that like sex toys are aptly named, that they are toys. They are designed to be fun. They can be designed as an aid if there is like a thing you want to try and you need a tool to help you get there. Great. That's one main reason sex toys exist. But if you also want to try something new, if you want to have some novelty, if you want to enhance pleasure and take it to a different place, one thing I often say when I hear this argument or myth about sex toys, when people say like my partner should be able to do everything for me, or I feel threatened by sex toys because I feel like my partner should only need me. What's so good about a toy when you have a body, that kind of thing. What I'll often reference is that a vibrator, you can set it at like 5 to 10 different speeds, and it will keep doing that exact thing at the exact rate until you increase it, and then it'll do that exact thing at that exact rate, and it'll go until the batteries run out.
And it's like 4 hours.
Right. And human bodies just don't work like that. And it doesn't, and that is, a sex toy can't give you a soft human touch. It can't give you like a warm massage with with mobile thumbs. Like we're just not talking about the same thing when we talk about a sex toy and when we talk about a human. And I think like we fall into that kind of trap when we're saying that like a toy is going to replace a person, whether we say that as a good thing or a bad thing. It's just never going to happen. They just exist in two different planes. So they're awesome for fun. They're awesome for utility. If you want help with something or trying something different that a body can't do, there's all kinds of reasons why someone would like a sex toy.
That's awesome. You're just reminding me of a time that I went to Shebop and I was like, I'm going to have anal sex, I swear. And I was like, how am I going to do that? And so I went to Shebop and I felt comfortable enough to be like, so, okay, the goal is anal sex. And that doesn't seem to be possible with what I got going on. So like, what can I do? And that was specifically a utility search of like, you can get an anal dilator. And I was like, I had no idea. And just being able to have a resource like Shebop where it's got like this boutique kind of vibe, and that everyone that works there kind of feels like a sex librarian in the best way. And that way you can talk to them and they're so knowledgeable that you'll feel like you're making a really good choice or learning something about it. And so that's the utility part. Is I'm like, oh yes, there are so many toys that have so much utility as well as creating fun and extra things that you're like, my hands could never, ever create that.
Yeah.
Or my body parts can never replicate that. Like that right there is NASA technology.
I think with that tool part, I mean, it's worth saying because I imagine we'll talk a lot about the pleasure side of it in this next bit. So, I mean, while we're on the topic of sex toys being utilitarian tools, I mean, there are all kinds of things that fall under that category of a sex toy that aren't designed purely for pleasure, that aren't designed purely for orgasm. Things like packers and breast forms for gender expression. Like those are things that you're not going to find those somewhere other than a sex toy retailer or from the manufacturer themselves. But but because they are penis shaped or breast shaped, you're like, that's not something that you can go into another store or talk to your medical provider about and have them be like, yes, great, this is a normal thing that we talk about, I'm comfortable with, and you have access to. So by creating a shop and a space that is like, we're going to carry things that look like penises, we're going to carry things that look like breasts, we're going to address your whole body, including your sexuality, then we open up the doors to things like exactly like that, like gender expression toys, like dilators. I see a lot of folks come in and ask me questions about dilation post radiation and chemotherapy. I talk to a lot of cancer survivors, and people are always like, I had no idea until my oncologist told me to come into a sex shop to get a dilator. But like in the medical community, a lot of dilators are just this like hard plastic or hard metal that aren't super sexy, aren't super fun to use. And you can come in somewhere and get a dildo that's actually fun and exciting. And maybe like looks sexy to you, so that you can engage with that side of your life and that part of your body in a different way. So I think it's, the tool part of it is an important part of what we do and why sex toys exist.
Yeah, I'm always impressed with the tool part as well, where I'm like, wow, there's a need for this and someone created it. And now, like, I'm not alone in my anal expansion thoughts, like it exists. Therefore, I'm not the only one, and other people need to dilate things as well,
That's right.
It's so cool. Well, will you share with us some of your favorite toys? And you could do the like utilitarian, the fun, the NASA, whatever you.
Absolutely. I think so. My own personal foray into sex toys, I will say I didn't think that vibrators were the first sex toy that I really explored. But even then, I didn't think that vibrators were for me. I took quite a while of experimenting with vibrators to realize that I could enjoy them. And which I think is kind of interesting and not something that I've heard that I hear people offering as a personal experience very often, especially sex positive people and people that spend a lot of time around sex toys. Because it was a couple of years into working at Shebop that I started to actually take interest in vibrators for my personal life. Sorry, tickle in my throat. And so for me, what I experimented with, I was, I was young and I was broke, and I was like, just like, okay, I'll get a bullet vibe from work with my discount, whatever. And then and not having much of a relationship to the way that I was masturbating and the way that I was using it. I was just kind of like, other people like vibrators, so I'm just kind of supposed to like put this on my clit and then hope for the best. And it wasn't until I, one, got a stronger vibrator, and two, created a practice around it and was like, which I know, Jessie, this is totally your bag, but was like, what is it like to actually get myself in the mood, practice some of this responsive desire, like get myself engaged in what I'm doing, and that this is a sexy thing, not just like I'm expecting this tool to work for me and it's not. Of engaging in like a sexy scenario and having a tool that suited my body a little bit better, which turned out to be a stronger, rumblier vibrator, that then I started kind of unlocking my own pleasure pathway with that. And now the cool news about that is like, fast forward 4 or 5 years later, now pretty much any vibrator will work for me. because I've like figured out how to, I'm going to keep calling it a pleasure pathway. Who knows if there's an actual term for this, but like, because I've unlocked whatever that pathway is for myself of understanding how my body responds to vibration.
For sure.
And now I've kind of like continued to open those doors and changed my body's pleasure pathway in that way. I think it's kind of cool. Knowing that like for a long time, I'd be like, this is whatever, vibration's not for me. So
yeah, when I completely relate to that story. Like the first time I ever used a vibrator, I was like, it felt like I plugged my clitoris into the light socket, and it was like, it was not I mean, if anything, an orgasm would happen in like 90 seconds, and then I'd be like, whoa,
yeah,
that was not that awesome, and I kind of feel like offended. And that's also, I agree that finding, you spoke about responsive desire, which I just want to share with people that are like, hey, what? Responsive desire is when desire shows up because of a response to a stimulus. So when Gretchen was saying that they prefer that they're like, yeah, let me try this in a different way. Let me see if trying out some other kind of like foreplay stimulus first and then applying a vibrator could be the way, which I think vibrators are not often, but for some people, they're like step 4 in the arousal phase, not step 1. But since we see them being used in step 1, it's just like, let's just try that. And it can just be jolting sometimes.
Yeah. So to your original question of what are my favorite sex toys, I will say the classic, I've got ye old magic wand rechargeable here. I like these so much that I have 2 of them.
Yay.
I do.
When you say it's rechargeable, how long does that last?
4 hours.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have 2.
You can juggle those.
My old one, Old Faithful says trusted bitch. Which back in the days of sex parties, when I was going to a lot of queer sex parties, this is how I knew which one was mine.
Oh my gosh.
Because everyone would bring theirs, and mine says trusted bitch on it. But it's a little old and rattly, so I did get a new one, perks of the sex shop life. But so this, for people who don't know these, most people don't have 2. You definitely don't need 2 to play with one. The classically known as the Hitachi magic wand, but Hitachi has taken their name off of the brand. They did quite a while ago, but they were about 30 years too late for people to have brand association. So everyone knows this as the Hitachi, even though
that's what they call that, the magic wand.
That's the Hitachi. Yep. So they are officially just magic wand.
Just magic wand.
But so, yeah, this one's rechargeable. The original that was made back in the 70s was a plug-in, and they still make a plug-in version, the Magic Wand Plus.
Yeah.
You have to use it plugged into the wall, but you can take the plug out to store it.
Oh.
The rechargeable is $130 or $135, I want to say. The Plus is under $100. So, but magic wands and other wand style vibrators are awesome if people need quite a bit of sensation. These are great for the high intensity and low rumble, which is a good time to say there are many kinds of vibration out there. All vibrators are not created equal in terms of the type of sensation that there is. So if you feel 2 vibrators next to each other, you will notice that some have we usually describe that as rumbly and buzzy. The rumbly is rumbly. It has a kind of like oceanic waterfall type feeling. And the buzzy has kind of a like an insect kind of feeling.
I love this.
And usually if someone says that they're getting numb from a vibrator, it's often the buzzy kind. Some people, I will say it is probably the minority of people in my anecdotal experience, but some people really love a buzzy vibrator. It has kind of a sharp feeling.
Right.
And some people like that. I would say more people like a rumbly vibrator, but some people feel like rumble isn't direct enough. You don't get that kind of like zappy feeling. It's kind of like like an earthquake is happening around your genitals, rather than like something is stinging your genitals.
Right.
And, you know, depending on your sensation choice.
Yeah.
Could go either way. So the magic wand has solid rumble and a large surface area. You know, like I've got pretty big hands. This is about the size of my palm.
Yeah.
So it does provide really broad stimulation. Some people like that, some people don't. But people who are fans of the magic wand have created all kinds of hats for the magic wand. Isn't this so cute?
So cute.
So this is called the nuzzle tip. And it's like also is kind of tentacly. It has little fins on it and it's flexible. So it's designed that this could cup around your clit, underneath your clit, or nuzzle into a labia, or nuzzle underneath the frenulum on a penis, like anywhere that you wanted to kind of cup around and get more pinpoint sensation. It'll translate that vibration into the tip. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's lots of different shapes out there. There are also ones that are insertable. There's one called the hammerhead topper, which I used to have, which is like a little tube that sits on top with this same kind of cup base, and then it's like this for a tube, and it's designed so that you could insert a penis through it, and vibrate this much sensation in kind of surround sound around a penis. So magic wand fans are everywhere, and they create all kind of creative stuff.
I also have to say that, like, anytime that, like, when I used to hang out or work at the sex club, like, when I saw someone, like, with their, like, bag of toys and then they'd, like, pull out the magic wand, there was some kind of association of, like, all right, they know what they're doing. You know, like, it's very much, like, in my mind, I was like, professional. There is a professional. They know, they came in, like, they're not messing around. Like, when you invest in something like a magic wand, it's on purpose.
Yeah, it's on purpose, for sure. For sure. You don't accidentally get a magic wand. I do have some toys of some other categories, which I thought would be fun. So in terms of other things that vibrate, like, there are all kinds of shapes and sizes of vibrating toys.
Yeah.
I was looking for one.
Whoa, one moment. No. No. All right, well.
I don't know where that one is. But I was looking for the WeVibe Wish, which is actually discontinued, but it's a cool concept and my personal favorite of a shape of a vibrator that companies will often call it a pebble shape, like a pebble that you pick up off the ground. And so anything that's kind of oblong and flat is pebble shaped. And the Wish is one example of that, even though it's been good. There were some motor issues in that toy that made it not really worth it to a lot of people. But those are designed to be grindable toys, which I think is cool, because that's one thing that the rare times that we see sex toy use, like in porn, for instance, we often see people like laying on their back. It's also how we just see masturbation, especially for people with clitorises and vulvas. Like, we see the rare times we see it depicted in media, it's like I'm going to lay on my back and like put my hand down my pants, or like I'm going to hold this toy like this. And not everybody masturbates that way. And definitely, like, that is when we're using toys during sex, that's not how many people aren't always using things in a missionary position where that person's on their back, you know? So like, having a variety of toys that you can use in a variety of ways, I think is kind of a sex nerd level up for sure.
Yeah, and switching up the position.
Yeah.
I know plenty of people, like some of my private clients that are like, but like, what do I do? Like, I'll lay on my back, but like, what do I do with my leg? And I'm like, there's so many different options. You can hold one knee in. You can like roll over. You can get real curious and get into all kinds of pretzel positions with however you're masturbating, whatever feels good.
Totally.
Yeah.
So then coming up with finding a toy that can go with you or that can suit whatever you want to do best. You know, like, one way to do that is get something with a long handle that you can hold and wrangle, but also these are really heavy and not everyone likes that. And a lot of people like to start when they're like first shopping for a vibrator or a sex toy in general, they want to go with something really small so that it's like unintimidating and won't take up a whole lot of space. And that's fine and nothing wrong with that. But then what happens if you are like wanting to be on your belly and then you have this like little thing that you're trying to configure, or even if you want to be on your back but then be having penetrative sex and you're trying to keep a little thing pinpointed where you want it. You know, like there's just, I think it's one question in the flow chart of questions for shopping for a toy that sometimes people forget to consider. It's like, how do you actually want to use it, and ergonomically what's going to work for you?
I appreciate the whole idea of a flow chart when purchasing, because sometimes, most of the time, they're not returnable. And most of the toys that I have gotten from a sex toy shop I'm considering this an investment. Like they're usually over $100. So to know that you think of purchasing sex toys in a flow chart way, I just highly respect that, because it's valued. I have so many toys that don't go use because I'm like, well, it sounded nice.
Yeah.
Thought it'd be cool.
Sorry, I'm plugging my computer in real quick so we don't die. There we go.
We don't want to die.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk you through my basic flow chart if that would be interesting.
I think that's great, because then people could be like, I don't have a Shebop, but I can order online, or I can go somewhere else in my nearby area.
Totally. So, and then I can then highlight some of the toys that I do have for where the flow chart might lead you. So usually if someone walks up to me and says like, okay, hey, Gretchen, I want to have a sex toy. Like often, you know, even people being willing and ready to have that conversation is a big step. And I'm always like, awesome. So glad that you are ready to take this step. And also, I can't just like put a toy into your hand and be like, here it is. This is the sex toy. Like there's more that I need to know. So I will often then go into how do you want to use your toy? And or with that, like what kind of body part do you imagine this being used on? And for some people that's separated into a kind of binary, like I'm either using this on a vulva, or I'm using this on a penis, or I'm using this on a butt. Like we've got, which I guess would be a trinary. But a lot of other people, they're kind of like, I want to just experiment with touch and putting it anywhere on a body, which is great. So just identifying like if you do want it to have a specific purpose, then know that, because that's going to help you decide on shape and function. So, and like, you know, if you're going for a toy that you want to experiment with butt stuff with, you're going to, anything that doesn't have a flared base is going to be out the window.
Will you explain to people what a flared base is? Because I hear that and I get it, but that's after I had some time to be like, flared base.
Yes.
What is that?
So, for instance, the difference between these two things. This doesn't have a flared base, and this does have a flared base. So a flared base is kind of a buzzword that gets thrown around between sex educators. I don't know how that got chosen as like the term for what it is, but what it just means is that the base on the toy, that you're going to have something that's going to stop it on the outside of your body, rather than your butt muscles and your rectum. Your rectum's really long, and your butt muscles are really strong. And so something like this, like, sure, it is unlikely that, especially in an amateur butt, that you're going to feel comfortable just being like, I'll just insert this all the way 6 inches of toy. Yeah, but it could happen. And if, you know, things are trucking along and you're up to here, there's nothing holding this on the outside of your body.
Trucking along.
Especially with this toy. So this is a pulsating toy. It moves back and forth rather than vibrating.
Wait, is it doing it right now, or is it doing it?
It's doing it.
Ooh.
No.
Pulsating. Noted.
Yeah. So it's a thruster. That's what we'd call it. Thruster.
So does that mean you can use that like hands-free?
Yeah.
That's some technology.
I know. These are cool. But so like something like that is moving itself, you know, if you are stoked and have lots of lube on it and you're really relaxed, like we don't have any safety mechanism that's saying like, all right, you've reached the end here. Yeah. Versus something like this, if you are bumping up against this and getting real excited and are taking the whole toy, you know that your anus isn't just going to go swoop and open up suddenly.
Yeah.
So we just need some assurance because it is much harder to get things out of a butthole once they have gone all the way in.
I'm sure the emergency room could tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we're playing vaginally, you're welcome to have a flared base on your vaginal toys as well. But if something were to get fully inserted into a vagina, we have a back wall on the vagina, usually a cervix for people with different bodies. Even if something is surgically constructed, we still have a back wall in the back of the vaginal canal that nothing will go past. So we have a shorter and shallower canal versus the rectum being much longer, and then ultimately a series of tubes that is connected. We don't have something that's a hard stop. So important to have a flared base. That kind of cover that, Jessie?
Yeah. Flared base, check. Pulsator, check.
So on our flow chart, we're going to say, like, is there a specific body part that you want this to stimulate? Yes or no. Beyond that, do you want this toy to vibrate, or do you want it to not vibrate? If you want it to vibrate, we've got all of the vibrating options. If you want it to not vibrate, then we would say, okay, well, if it's not vibrating, do you want it motorized at all or not? Because then we've got the motorized option of like, well, sure, I want it to have a movement, but I don't really like vibration. We've got things like thrusters, pulsators, and we also have things like suction and airflow toys.
Those things.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I was like, not a fan of sex toys. After those things came out, I was like, what? And maybe a pulsator, I'd probably feel the same way.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Can you hear it? This one's really noisy.
I can't hear it. Zoom has, or not Zoom, we're not on Zoom, but sometimes these little softwares, they take away background noise.
I appreciate that. I do for everything except for listening to sex toys.
Yeah.
So this one is one by WeVibe. It's called the Melt. And so this would, again, qualify as a motorized toy, but it's not doing vibration. It's doing gentle suction by circulating air through a little nozzle in here. Right. So it's designed to cup around a clit. It's designed to cup around a nipple. It could go on anything. Oh, my earring just fell out. Designed to go around anything that you want a little bit of suction and sensation on. I believe the company Womanizer, who was like a real
that's leader. The one I have.
Yeah, nice. They're a real leader in these kinds of toys. Their tagline on these is, it's like a kisses on the clitoris, which kisses on the clitoris. Which I don't know that I super agree with, but I do often say, like, if we could describe a sensation that this is most similar to, it would be a focused oral sex around a clitoris.
For sure, sucking. Yeah.
So we've got options for motorized toys that are non-vibrating. We also have things like dildos, butt plugs. We now have some vaginal plugs too. Things that are designed to be inserted that don't vibrate, that just do their job. So we've got that route. And I guess that's worth saying, if we're going down the non-vibrating route, we've got all kinds of dildos that are like human-ish. I've got plenty more, in all colors, but like that are generally phallic shaped and dickish. But then we also have dildos that are made of glass and metal and polished wood and many kinds of penetratable items that are not like this kind of classic silicone dildo vibe. So got a lot of non-vibrating options.
You're making me think of Shebop. Like, I love shopping there because when I'm like, ooh, do I want wood? Like, what's it coated with? Like, is glass okay? That I know shopping there that anything that's in that shop has been like tested and approved to put inside your body, but not necessarily other sex toy shops where you like can smell the like poly whatever that a huge dildong is made from. Will you speak to that just a tiny bit of like quality?
Totally. So that's another, I mean, that is a thing. If you were to go into a different sex shop, one that was not a member of the Progressive Pleasure Club, perchance. I
didn't know about that club.
Yeah, the Progressive Pleasure Club. I think we're like 10 or 12 shops strong across the US and Canada that all have a similar commitment to like quality testing our toys and knowing the manufacturers and looking out for what materials our toys are made out of and where they're coming from and the ingredients in our lubes, things like that. And we all have a communication between all of the shops, and they do a lot of supporting each other in terms of hiring and education and new products and new manufacturers and things like that. So
sweet.
You can even just Google the Progressive Pleasure Club and all the shops in it would pop up.
So, I love that.
Yeah. But so if you were shopping outside of that, nothing wrong with that. But in this flow chart, you definitely want to ask yourself, what do I want my toy to be made out of?
What do I want it to smell like?
Yeah, and that smell thing that you're talking about, often, I mean, many plastics have weird smells, but the main one, if you open something up and it has like a shower curtain headache kind of smell, that's often a sign that something contains phthalates, which phthalates is a fancy long word that starts with a P and who knows. But phthalates are something that are introduced when a hard plastic is flash softened. So when you have like a cheaper, harder plastic and then someone wants to make a malleable dildo that they're like, wow, so soft and squishy, super comfy to put in your body, amazingly cheap to make, you're introducing a gas that, I don't want to be so dramatic as to say it's a toxic gas, but it can be really irritating to people's skin. And it means that you're ending up with a toy that is porous. It can hold on to bacteria. It's hard to get completely clean. And it's kind of off-gassing all the time. They often will look like they're sweating a little bit. It doesn't necessarily mean they're like wet and like melting in front of your eyes, but it means that they're not a super stable plastic. And they're not going to last you a super long time either. So funky smell, maybe irritating your skin. Some people will experience rashes and hair loss and stuff like that, an immune response in that kind of way to using toys with phthalates. So in general, giving your toy a whiff before you use it, not a bad idea.
I'll test.
And then checking to see the toys that are non-porous will say that they're made out of ABS plastic, which I do have written down somewhere what the ABS stands for, but who knows? But that's not plastic. It's the same plastic they make Legos out of.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So things that are approved that we assume that our children will be putting in their mouths. It's the same stuff that those toys are made out of. Lots of smaller, inexpensive vibrators are made out of ABS plastic. Or we're looking for things made of silicone, usually, if we want something to be soft and malleable. Looking for silicone, and on the packages, we wanted to say 100% silicone or platinum grade silicone or something like that. We want some evidence that it's not just made with silicone, like, hey, we thought about silicone when we made this toy. We want it to be like, this is made of silicone. I've heard some horror stories about like toys that that different shops got as testers that then they went and like, this feels so funky. It's silicone, but like the inside feels weird. And they cut it open and it was like a bundled up dish rag in rubber bands that then would have been dipped in silicone. Like,
what?
I don't know if that's a true story, so don't necessarily share it as true. But I definitely heard that story and it stuck with me because it's like, we're working in an unregulated industry.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's like one of the side effects of being in a sex negative society that no one wants to talk about it. So we don't have a standard for like what's allowed to be in your sex toy.
Yeah.
Who is checking on that? Like, what can you sell? So if everything just says this is a novelty only, which almost every sex toy will say, then it can just be anything because it's just a novelty. It's just a toy. Don't eat it. And then it's fun. Like, so
that's so good to know. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So it's on you, for better or for worse, to do that work. Generally, if you ask the salesperson, whether it's Shebop or not, the salesperson should be able to tell you if it's silicone or not. And if they're not sure, you can look at the manufacturer. And if nothing is coming out and telling you what it's made out of, they're probably not proud of what it's made out of. So then you might want to choose something else.
And you're saying that 100% silicone or platinum grade silicone is like good to go.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Yep. Medical grade silicone will
Mhm.
that's also great. That's the same stuff that implants are made out of. A lot of medical devices are made out of. Like that's kind of as good as you're going to get with
Awesome.
a sex toy material.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I want to say
Where are we in the flow chart?
yeah, I know. I was like revisiting my
Sorry, I'm like all over the place.
I love that.
I'm ready to talk about lubes. I'm like, wait, okay.
It's
Sorry,
great. This is
flow chart
reminding
part.
me of the days when we had, and we'll have again, customers in the shop at She Got,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
always really all over the place. And
Yeah,
I'm holding
customer
this flow
mind.
chart in my brain at all times.
Yes.
So we're at the like, okay, but you do want something vibrating. In which case I'll often say, okay, do you want something insertable or something just for external stimulation?
Mhm.
And assuming that we're shopping for use on a vulva, I'll talk about some other options in a second.
Yeah.
But then we've got smaller clitoral vibes. Anything can be an external vibrator. Or we've got things that have the option to be inserted, which usually will just have a little more length on them, sometimes at more of an oblong shape,
Yeah.
so that they're more comfortable. And we can talk about width and depth of penetration and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then if people want both, we also have dual vibrators, things like this. This is the Queen Bee from Fun Factory that is designed for internal and external stimulation at the same time.
Whoa.
So
Cool.
there are all kinds of dual vibes out there. This is just one example. But with these, they're generally designed to be inserted up more or less to this break in the silicone. And then this smaller end would sit out against a clitoris and vibrate as well. This one does have a different motor for each end. So you
Whoa,
can
cool.
adjust the intensity separately, which is kind of cool.
That's so cool. That toy, I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's why engineers have to make this stuff, because that's why Hitachi is making magic wands, because I think the Hitachi was originally like a massager, and Hitachi also makes so many other things like gardening power tools and stuff like that, that it's all these motors that are needed to go into these toys to make them like waterproof and durable and safe and high powered.
That's a good question about, or not even a question, but a good reminder about waterproof stuff.
yeah.
So that is one other question that we would get to at some point in this flow chart of how do you want your toy to get of like, how do you want your toy to get its power is often a question I'll ask, which is when people are like, I don't know, then I'll usually ask what's your budget? Because those things often go together. So we're looking at whether something is battery operated, rechargeable, or plugs into the wall.
Yeah.
And most things are going in the route of rechargeable, and they're going towards USB rechargeable rather than just a wall plug, which is cool. It means that can be used all over the world and all of that.
Yeah.
But rechargeable toys are often more expensive than battery operated toys. Battery operated toys are a little bit simpler usually. So many people start with a battery operated toy and then kind of level up to rechargeable. Or some people have a strong preference for batteries and that's just their thing, which is great. But so that's something that we often ask. And by and large, battery operated toys are not waterproof. They just like,
good to know.
It's every so often, like, so I will say a kind of loophole in that is that if a company says that puts on the box, this is a waterproof toy, and you submerge it in water and it stops working, that's absolutely something that would be covered in the warranty.
Cool.
So most toys have warranties on them. I would check what the warranty is before you do something risky. But if they say it's waterproof, then that's on them. If they don't say it's waterproof, I would not put your toy in the water. So usually, so this one actually is fully submersible in water. It's rechargeable. Cool. But if something like this were battery operated and maybe you took this off to put the batteries in it, in order to wash it, I would run it under the sink, but keep that bit, keep an eye on where that closable bit is and not dump that part under the sink. I would angle it down. I would wash the silicone part and I would lay it flat to dry. You just don't want to risk getting water into the seams of anything battery operated because you're going to kill your batteries and maybe kill your motor. A lot of rechargeable toys, I would say most rechargeable toys are submersible in water. Some of them only up to a cup, they will only work up to like a certain depth point. It's important to you if you need to take your scuba diving or something.
Yeah.
But they'll tell you what that is on the package. So
cool. Like the new iPhone.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, so that was my confusing tour through the flowchart. But that's that's kind of all the points of like specific body part, vibrating or not, insertable or not, how much do you want to spend on it, and or how do you want it to get its power?
Yeah.
You know, and what do you want it to be made out of? So you've got like all these questions to ask yourself that can really, if you have an answer to all of those questions, you can choose from like a handful of toys that would all be good products for you versus that kind of initial coming in of being like, I'd like to get a sex toy. Like that's a great place to start, but you might not end up with the thing that's going to actually work the best for you unless you ask yourself those questions. Yeah. I did want to speak to, because I said that I would, about toys designed for penises.
Yeah.
Because we do like, I don't know that I would go so far as to say that the sex toy world is dominated by toys for vulvas, but in the realm of Shebop and many other progressive pleasure club shops, we carry way more toys that are targeted towards vulva use, towards penis use. But there are so many sex toys out there for people of all genitals, and so many toys that you can use on any genitals you want. But I do understand that sometimes people want a toy that is specifically designed with bodies like theirs in mind. And that's super important, representation and feeling like this is appropriate for me to use, this is okay for me to use. So some sex toys out there that are designed for not cis women and that are designed for not vulvas, there are things that fall into both of those categories. Some toys that I think are really cool that are designed for vulvas but not for cis women are things like the Buck Off, which I wish I had these with me, but I don't. But the Buck Off is a stroker, so it's a little like it's not motorized, it's hand powered, but it's a soft plastic that's designed to cup over an enlarged clit. So if you're someone that's been taking testosterone, been on hormones, or has a little bit of enlargement, the Buck Off can, with lube, kind of sit over the clit, and then by creating suction in like a hand job kind of motion, pull on a clit in a similar motion to how we would give a hand job to a penis.
Cool.
And so like a gender affirming, body affirming toy that operates like a toy designed for penises but works functionally on a vulva. Kind of cool.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, there are also dildos out there. Like one that we carry is called the BJ, and it's a hollow dildo that has a wide opening that's designed to cup around and create like a little bit of suction around a clit. And then as we suck on the top of it, it provides suction to the clit underneath.
That's so cool.
I know. So by giving the dildo a blowjob, you're giving the clit a blowjob. Cool.
Cool.
And then for toys designed for penises, there are so many out there. I would say most commonly, and the ones that get kind of like poked fun at, would be like the Pocket Pussy, which is a brand. Pocket Pussy is a real thing that you can
I didn't know that Pocket Pussy was an actual brand.
Yeah, it's a real thing. That name came from a thing actually named the Pocket Pussy. But so that's generally what we would refer to that as in the sex toy world would be a masturbation sleeve. And masturbation sleeves take all kinds of forms and come at all kinds of price points. Some are
I have one. While you speak about it, I'll grab it.
Yeah. So some are really thin and simple and have a little bit of texture on them and are designed to just kind of go underneath a hand and add some sensation. Something like a Tenga egg or I'm forgetting the brand right now. Vibratex makes a couple of small thin sleeves like that. Ooh, what's that one?
This is the Lilo F1, and
cool.
Can you hear it?
I could. A second ago.
I'll put it. It is like 22 sensors, and you insert yourself in here, and the sensors are also connected to your iPhone or through an app, and you can program them to do different patterns. The reason why I have this is that I can never remember how you turn anything off. There we go. I'm like, I need like that kitchen drawer that has all of the manuals to the sex toys, because I'm usually hitting the button being like, do I hold it? Like, I would love a universal programming for all sex toys to be like, you just hold every button to turn it off for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
The only thing about this is that you have to be able to fit in this, which that has been an issue for some people, and it's only 4.5 inches. And very specific diameter. So that's why I own it, because I gave it to my partner and he was like, this is not going to work. I was like, great, where's my box? Yeah.
Interesting thing. It's like it's so fancy, but also so specific.
I know. Yeah. And it's like $200. So
yeah. And so some of the cheaper ones, they don't have all the bells and whistles and they're not attached to your iPhone and all of that, but they're like $12.
Yeah.
It's like good options.
Or like a flashlight is like, fantastic.
Yeah. And so the fleshlight, which you just mentioned, the fleshlight's been around forever. They have a great foundational story, by the way, which we probably don't have time to share tonight. But it was one man's dream. He quit his job to create the fleshlight while his wife was having a high-risk pregnancy, and they were advised to not have sex, and she was on bed rest. And he devoted his life during this time to creating the fleshlight.
Cool.
And then now it's a multi-million-dollar business that baby who was born healthy and safe took over the business and is now the CEO and inherited a multi-million-dollar business.
Why am I getting the chills from this? This is a strange way to get the chills, but it's like a magical story.
Yeah. The American dream for sure. Yeah. But so anyway, Fleshlight they're a very well-known, very successful brand of masturbation sleeves that now they have contracts with many different porn performers and adult stars that they will match a vulva or anus to a mold made from a performer. And
cool.
You can get all kinds of customization like that, which is super cool.
Yeah.
There are also toys for penises out there that are vibrators of many kinds, kind of like the one that you showed, but there are also some of my favorite shapes that don't have that same, because again, across a gender spectrum and the ways that people like to be touched, rather than just this kind of fuckable sleeve item, there are a lot of different shapes that are starting to come out.
Cool.
That are designed to offer different sensation to those similar body parts. So things like the same company who makes this, Fun Factory, they make a toy called the Manta, which is this kind of stock, and then if you can imagine, there's 2 little hookies on here, and they're flexible. It's a flexible hook on the tip that's designed to be lubed up and go on the underside of a penis and kind of stroke up and down with vibrating from both sides.
Cool.
There's another company called the Hot Octopus, which is very silly.
But
Hot Octopus makes a handheld, or you can just rest it on your body. They make a vibrator with a pulse plate designed to go on a frenulum that offers this kind of cupping and vibrating sensation around a penis. Cool. There's all kinds of really cool toys out there, whether you like that stroking, fucking sensation or more of a steady sensation. So
cool.
All kinds of cool stuff. Yeah. Want to give a quick
lube talk. Pep talk. Yes.
My lube pep talk.
Yeah.
I won't go through the whole thing because it's its own whole situation. But I will say, if you're gonna get a sex toy, you should probably get some lube. It's just a good thing to have on hand. It just is. Not everyone likes to use lube every time they have sex. Not everyone likes to use lube every time they masturbate. Not on every toy. There are all kinds of caveats, but it's just one of those things that's you can get a bottle of lube for under $10, and when you want it, you will be glad that you have it.
Yes.
So you might as well. And it's funny at Shebop, I love that we don't work on commission. We don't upsell. If it's not the right toy for you, we won't recommend it. But at the end of every transaction in person, we'll say, are you all good on lube? Do you already have lube at home? Are you set? And that is not an intention to upsell. It is truly I want to make sure that if you turn to your bedside and wish that you had lube, that it is there for you.
Yes. I saw something in a sex special recently on Masterclass with Emily Morris that she said that the studies have found that 75%, there's a 75% increase of pleasure and a chance of orgasm just simply when lube is used for vulva owners. So
yeah,
that's a huge percentage.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with you if you need lube. It's just like you could be turned on and not be lubricated. And you can be turned on and be lubricated and all just, yeah.
Yeah. So lube's great, folks.
Yeah.
Get some. If you are going to use lube with sex toys, everyone's got their own preferences about brands and types and all of that. I'm like holding this big bottle of Sliquid because it's my favorite.
Yes.
It's cheap per ounce, which is really nice and really minimal in its ingredient list, really gentle on your skin. And they make a bunch of different slight variations on the same formula. If you want something a little different, like if you really want something moisturizing, if you want something really thick and gel-like, if you want something that has a center flavor, like their line of lubes is all really consistent, but offers those little differences across the line. So they're always my go-to unless someone gives me a specific reason why they would want to go for something else, which sometimes people do. There's lots of other options out there that are great. If you're shopping with Shebop or Progressive Pleasure Club member, all of the lubes we carry are like things that we stand by and that our staff has used and that we've liked and that are generally not going to cause irritation. Of course, we can't promise to know, anybody's individual skin or what their situation is going to be like, but there's stuff that we, at least on paper, can stand by. If you're shopping somewhere else, kind of like looking and smelling and understanding what toys might be made out of, there are all kinds of lubes out there made of all kinds of things. The big things I would avoid are parabens. And if you have sensitive skin, especially, avoiding glycerin and propylene glycol. Those three things are really commonly in lubes as stabilizers and preservatives. And they're often the things that lead to the biggest risk of skin irritation and that kind of burning sensation. Parabens have been inconclusively, not going to, no uproar drama here, but they've been inconclusively linked to breast cancer as well. And they have been banned from a lot of things that we put on other parts of our bodies, like skincare in general. They're not allowed to put parabens in, but because again, we're unregulated what we do with our genitals, those things keep popping up in lube and personal care items. So just stuff that I would avoid. But again, anything that you'd find at our shop is going to not have those things in it by default. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. And I would go, if you're just going to have one kind of lube on hand, I would go for a water-based lube. There's all different kinds of bases out there and stuff that your lube's made out of. And in general, water is going to be compatible with the most things. So a water base is one that you can just grab. You don't have to be like, what toy am I using? What condom am I using?
Lube math.
Yeah, you can just be like, cool, this is lube, I will use it. Versus if you've got other things, you might run into some compatibility issues. So.
Just to let people know, like a silicone lube used with, what is it with?
Silicone on silicone.
Silicone on silicone is a no-no because silicone will bond to itself.
Which is the opposite of lube. It's the opposite of lubricating. Bonding.
Yes. It's cement. Yes.
And you don't want to use oil with anything porous, which includes most kinds of barriers and also some kinds of toys. So if you were using a non-silicone dildo, something made of thermoplastic elastomer maybe, which is if you have a kind of translucent stretchy toy, it's probably TPE, thermoplastic elastomer. You definitely want to keep your oils away from that because it'll wear it down and then just snap it. So. So water is great with everything. It's kind of the take home.
Do you know if you can heat up water-based lube? Like you can
I wouldn't put it on the stove.
No.
But you could definitely do a bowl of warm water and dunk your bottle in it. I've just run mine under warm water or put it with me in the shower, with the seal.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
If you put more water into it, it'll just become much thinner, which is not great. But you can warm up the bottle for sure.
Cool. That's been my new favorite thing is warming up, getting a Hydro Flask mug, putting warm water in it, and then dropping a little bit of lube in it and letting the lube warm up. And it is just
that's so good.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
Yeah. I have a friend and coworker who is so fancy. She has she has a lube dispenser that's like a repurposed automatic soap dispenser that she just waves her hand under and lube comes out. And then she also has a lube warmer that's like kind of that like a coffee cup warmer or like candle melter kind of thing that she can put her lube bottles on and they'll warm them from below. She's so
That's fancy. Those are my kind of people. Yeah, where you're like, what? Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much for this. I learned so much. And I know that I'll be able to refer this to people in the future and that people can watch this on replay. Thank you so much for all of your knowledge. I knew that there was this much knowledge. I just did not know,
My pleasure. It's wild. There's so much more still. There's just the world of sex toys is vast, everybody. If you ever want to do a 201, I'll be here.
Yeah. And I know that people can book on Shebop like a consultation toy purchase, right?
Yeah, we're doing virtual appointments right now where you can book out a 30-minute session just for you or for you and your partner or whatever it is. And you will get a sex educator who will hold up toys they pulled out for you and talk to you about pros and cons and all of that. We're also available on the phone. We have an online chat on our website. We're not open for in-person customer shopping yet, but we'll likely be opening up like one-on-one or small group appointments like a few months down the line, that kind of thing. We're not in a huge hurry to reopen, but we are excited to find all the ways that we can have folks engage with us again because we miss you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Someone in the comments said, thank you so much, Gretchen and Jessie. This was great.
Yay. You're so welcome, person in the chat.
Yay. Well, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow night. I'll be teaching sex and sensuality for the super sensitive. That's my class to teach people that feel just a little extra spidey sensey with their nervous system where they can just feel less challenged by sex and intimacy and feel that sensitivity is their gift. So I teach that tomorrow for Shebop at 5:30. Gretchen, where can people catch you? Yeah, there's still room.
I was going to say, if people want to come to that class, it's a great class. And you can find it on our website and you can sign up until 2:30 tomorrow. So
cool. Yay.
Get on that. You can find me, right now I am a little incognito on the internet. I'm doing so much work coordinating other people's education, which is great. But it means that I'm not doing a whole lot of my own. I do have a website that has a contact me if there is something that you'd like me to teach or you have follow-up questions, any of that. It's gretchenlee.org. Feel free to reach out there. Find me on Instagram, all of that. Just know that I have my internet presence is low. I'm all word of mouth these days.
I love that. That just makes you even more like high demand, special bachelorette party. Yes. Amazing. Okay, well, take care, everyone, and we'll see you next time for another episode. And I hope that you get to share with us what your favorite toys are. Yay! Bye. Yay!